to give some context for this year and its closure. And now a little bit ground rules. I mean, if you need to actually write or ask questions while I'm talking a little bit, give some context about the ending quarter and so on, you can type in your questions while we actually in chat, and you can comment or ask anything. I mean, I will give some time for questions as well. I'm actually a little bit curious, and I'll give you a chance to kind of voice yourself. What brought you in to this conversation tonight? So just you can either do it via voice or do it via text, and I'll just announce it because we're recording this. I'm just curious about what made you come to this conversation, because that's a good context for why we're here as well. And if you don't feel like saying anything, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm just gonna go in and we're gonna start our webinar. So I don't see any. You can also, so nobody wants to actually say much about why they're here. Okay, that's okay. So yes, no? Okay, no takers. So here's the thing. It's it's like we're always kind of looking at the year to come. 2020 is around the corner, but we barely have. I'll give the time to kind of look a little bit about like what is the closure of the year we're still in. What does this mean in terms of its time cycle? What kind of time cycle we need to close, and what is there like still open item tickets, I would say, that we need to pay attention to. Because here's the thing with the act of completion and the act of beginnings, in any time frame through life, basically we want to actually complete things powerfully so we can actually have the space to begin and create or recreate something in our lives. A lot of times we are not actually paying attention. A lot of time we're not paying attention to what needs to be finished, and it's hard to actually create something new on top incomplete business. So that's why I cannot say enough about the importance of the act of completion. And some of us actually not even aware that we start sometimes new project, new dreams without taking the time and the attention to create closure of some sort. So I appreciate some of you said here that I want to wrap up 2019 on a high note, and it's the right approach to have, and it's like that's exactly why I feel really compelled to have this talk and conversation. So here's the thing. Let's in terms of like Soul of Destiny, this is like a quotation by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was like really a spiritual essayist and really kind of create some sort of context for how to hold life and its consciousness. So the really important part is like, have we actually lived this year fully? Have you actually lived this year to your full potential? It's something to look at. We're gonna do some, so this is like the transition. I want to talk a little bit about transition. So one thing is like, is to look at the context of time overall. So the concept of time, you can see in the slides, it's in numerology, time cycle moves in nine cycles. It's cyclical in terms of time. It's not linear, even though there's one line and there's like different cycle has a different quality. So here's the thing, 2001 to 2008 was 1 9 circle. The completion of 2008 was like, it was a big crash and a whole bunch of changes in terms of like how our economic consciousness and awareness have come to place. Now, from 2009 to 2018, that was another time cycle. In numerology, time cycles or completion cycles of 9 year, a 9 year, what we call a 9 year, a year that is under the vibration of 9, is a longer time cycle. So we started the current completion cycle of something that started in 2009. So 2009, there was a rise of consciousness, was a rise of like betterment of the economy, and then we come to a halt in 2000. I would say even in 2017 we come to a halt, because 2017 brought a lot of issues of socio-economic issues into light. And the time cycle that we looking at, completion cycle, is a year and 3/4. So we're talking about almost, let's see, we're talking about 21 months, about give and take. So 2018, we started a completion cycle. 2019, we sort of flipped the record and we started to move into a closure of things. So a lot of things happen. So here's the thing, when they said 2018, the year of the woman, much more feminine energy, 2019 actually brought in issues of men. Because one thing I want to talk about, 19 is a karmic number. And it has to do with mainly male authority from past life. And the karmic number, it's karmic debt associated with the ability of leadership beyond past life challenges. It's associated with male authority, and it's basically, it's releasing some sort of boundaries that were controlled by mainly male energy, male leadership. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, feminine or female. It can be also in terms of like male female. It can be like a woman that held like, that was a suppressive kind of leader, though in this year it was mostly about unlocking or exposing karmic debt associated with male authority. And people that has, I would say people that has any sort of 19 in their chart is associated with, they have to overcome past life experiences associated with being suppressed by other leaders. So it's basically, when we're talking about changing the focus or changing the karmic influence, when it comes to this number, it's associated with unlocking the possibility of becoming your own leader, or lead by example on your own, and not to be too caught by others, I would say, suppression, or others' authority. You know, a lot of time we give away our own power to other people to be led. So this year is a lot to do with finding our own space for leadership and creating a path that is not really necessarily conditioned by others, authorities, or other authority figures. I'm just curious, does that make sense to you? And what maybe you want to type in what was your experience associated with that kind of idea? Did you actually find yourself this year more um, willing to take the risk to become a leader? I want you to think about it and just maybe share something with the group here. If you want to do it by voice, you're welcome to do it. I see you all mute, but that's okay. So again, did you find your calling or space for yourself in the area of leadership? Or are you still looking for that space for yourself? Maybe you're still looking. Maybe it gave you some sort of more experience or exposure for yourself to find that voice. Wow, that's great. So, some of you actually um, looking for that space. Cool. Because here's the thing, 19 is a karmic number. We're talking about that is collapsing to a 10. And when we're looking at a 10, this was a 10 year, it is a 10 year because I'm just going to jump in a little bit further. Oh, here, 10, a 10, 10 is represents, the number 10 is the radiant body. Um, so 10 is the radiant body, and the radiant body is associated with the ability to inspire, to uplift other people. It's about courage. So I will ask you another question. Where are the areas that you still operating out of fear versus where you kind of gain your own courage and step up to the potential that each one of us have? That's a really important component. So in the realm of 10, how much of a 10 are you at this point in time? So 10 has to do with courage, has to do with leadership, has to do with inspiring others. 10 has to do with the nervous system. So nervous system means that at times when we act out of fear, we actually become like mousy or fearful to take risks or get caught in the denial of the destiny present itself for us. Like an entrepreneur or a business person or anyone who actually wants to make a difference needs to tap into this 10. Now, the other side of 10 is the side of being caught or locked by ideals and values. 10s looking at reality in the from the perspective of that everything is black and white. And you can see it in our politics. It's very much black and white. It's very much to the extremes. And this is where division is in place instead of kind of looking, okay, we're disagreeing on these issues, but maybe we have 30% of agreement. So starting to look at the gray areas in your sense of self or your ability to actually what is your tens telling you is a really important component. So it's I would say that in many ways The lack of leadership, actually, because we have a karmic number, it's based on past values and past influences. Lack of leadership was what was presented this year, and the need for somebody who's not necessarily was seeking leadership or seeking a place of power to step into that place, because we're still in a lot of areas with old models for leaderships, looking for somebody else to take the authority and create it for us, looking for somebody else to lead the way, looking for some sort of a father figure to tell us what to do. And we are in a different type of consciousness that will be very much activated in 2020. I'll just give you a little bit of a preview of that. Leaderships is something that each one of us need to initiate and create some sort of like an authoritative group consciousness. There will be some people that will be more inspiring than others because we have different talents, but each one of us need to say, where can I lead? So let's look at that. So that was like, that is part of that year, this year, that is really challenging too, because 10, or the radiant body, the number 10, is also has this kind of mentality of all or nothing mentality. So when we look at all or nothing mentality, is a lot of time is there's not very much sense of compromising. Like, I don't want to get too political here, but I will give, for instance, Elizabeth Warren, for instance, is an example of all or nothing type of this 10 energy, or this act of authority. And it's not going to work in that sense, because we are not operating on all or nothing. It's not some sort of a, and we have a president that is all or nothing too. So it's, you can see example from different political spectrum of this all or nothing mentality, taking no prisoners, basically. It's either we're going to go all the way or it's not going to work, so to speak. Does that make sense to you? Do you have your own version of that yourself, the all or nothing? So I see some of your really input, and it's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. You're all looking for that voice of where can you lead life differently and lead it in a powerful way. That's awesome. You can type in where, or you can write down where are you actually holding life or your awareness with kind of all or nothing. Because I'll tell you, I cannot talk enough about all or nothing. A lot of times the all or nothing mentality is debilitating, because we don't even take risks to pursue certain goals if we don't have all the conditions that we state that these are the conditions that we need to have. So the all or nothing is also a debilitating factor within this 10 leadership mentality. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, so in terms of timing, we talked a little bit about like these 2-9 cycles. One ended in 2008. We started another one in 2009. Another one just ended this August. So this August, we ended a 9-year of evolution. So something new opened up. And just think about, for instance, the impeachment procedure opened up around the end of August, beginning of September. So something open up. I mean, we can have other example of something that open up as well. Like, for instance, what open up, even with climate change, that we need to take different leadership around climate change individually on a total different level, for instance. So the last week of August 2019, we have started a new cycle, a new 9-year cycle, and it's under the auspicious number of 1. So 1, when we look at 1, when we start like this kind of cycle of 1 has to do with pioneering. 1 has to do with new beginning. Now, each one of us has our own cycles as well. So what I'm talking about the universal or the cosmic, collective cosmic chart, so to speak, associated with our timing and evolution in this time. But you may be actually in a different cycle right now, because each one of us has started our karmic clock in a different point in time. So I would say it's probably not a bad thing to look at your own timing and clocking and where you need to actually focus on. So the last week of August, we went we call in a chart, we went direct, we went to a new start. So a new start means that this quarter of September, October, November, December is a very much a quarter of new beginning, completion a new beginning. So I would say, why I'm saying completions, because on the monthly cycle, September's had its own 9 cycle itself, so it was also about cleaning up. As well, listen to this, as well, the months of October. October was a 10, what we call a 10 months with that 10 energy, and it means that the last week in October we went direct. And what happened the last week of October, somewhere there, or the last 10 days? It was all these fires in California. That's an act of completion as well, in that sense. October was a very challenging month. I mean, probably, I cannot see one person that would say, oh, October was not challenging at all. I promise you that each one of us has our own challenges in October. Some of them are actually continuing now in November, and we're going to talk about it. But October ran about the lack of awareness, and we were caught by surprise on many levels. I would say economically, I would say environmentally, we were caught off guard, because in many ways October was casted by illusion. The illusionary factor of our reality was very strong, and we were caught by surprise that suddenly things change dramatically very quickly. We didn't see it coming. Our electric system in California, environmental issues, issues associated with community, issues associated with housing, things like that. So when we're looking at the last quarter of this year, it has the qualities of courage, it has adventure, innovation, and discovery. It's like a spring-like initiation and momentum energy right now. It's like, okay, what do I need to initiate to kind of get a head start in the coming months, in the coming year, so to speak. So I want to say something about, for instance, November is very much, this month is very much about the focus, and each one of us needs to look at it. The focus is, what is the one or two things that really inspires me? What are the factors that I want my calling or purpose to be moved by? What is my true passion that will give me enough juju to actually move through different difficulties and circumstances and will carry me through some of these challenges and will lead the way for me? This is what it is in November. November, in one hand, it's about what inspires me. That's the question. And what inspires me creatively? What is the creative expression that I need to actually create right now to move forward? So that's something for you to write down, even write down this question. What is the creative expression that I need to form right now that will inspire me, whether it's great time or challenging times? Does that make sense to you? Just say yes, no, no, I don't. I'll give some time for questions as well, so don't worry about it. But I just like to see where you engaged here as well. So that's one thing. In the base of November's chart, that's a good question. I'm gonna answer some of these questions in a minute, but I see some of you are asking really great questions. So one thing that I would say that is a challenging factor. So in October, we were caught off guard. Circumstances changes. There was a whole sense of fear. We need to move around, things like that. So moving around is happening right now, November. Moving around happening right now. There's a lot of people who travel, who moves around, who are looking for some other places to land, so to speak. It's not as dramatic as may happen in 2 years, for instance, but there is this movement right now. So the thing is, whether you're traveling this month in October or just kind of visiting places, you want to take more time for errors and more time for, I would say, when things do not go well, just to give yourself a buffer zone for safety. And the other thing is, the main thing is no rushing is the main mantra this month. The thing is also, I want you to take a moment and like 3 things you would like to change within the last quarter of 2019. This is really important. I want you to write it down. Just write it down in front of you. The other thing in November, the thing is that we need to focus on that kind of is breath work, movement, and breath and movement is really important this month, and taking extra care of our physical body and physical condition, physical environment, because it will shift it will shift our psyche from being either complaining a lot or being negative or being sometimes depressed. By the way, 10, when it goes to the shadow side, it means depression. It's the nervous system. When 10 goes, just think about it, the radiant body on the shadow side, it means being down on ourselves, basically. So this is something, especially this month in November, we need to kind of increase the frequency a little bit. Now, I want to address also the other thing that needs to be played with that will give us more, you can say, fun and hope is to play with money-making ideas this month, November. That will diffuse any sort of physical constraint or mental challenge. It's like playing with ideas. How can I make more money? Yeah. It's like, so move forward a little bit. The other thing is November, especially November, is about where can I be more public with other people? Where can I, the context of being seen is really important, especially in matters of our heart. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit of 10 in a gift position. If you have like a 10 and this year it's in a gift position, it's also, there are a lot of people that rise into leadership that we haven't seen before. And you see it in politics, but I promise you, you see it in our communities too. You see people who came to the forefront where we haven't seen them before. So just notice for these people, notice for yourself as well, where you still kind of holding back and where do you need to come out as a leader. Okay, we talked a little about, so the thing is, there's also a 3 this year, 2019, and 3 is within the numeric chart. It's something that was brought in from past life. So in the past life configuration this year has to do a lot with creative solutions for others, being more humanitarian, food and nurturing, finding good in any circumstance. 3 represent the positive mind, as we call it in numerology. Positive mind is seeing possibilities in every situation. Now, this past life number, what we brought, it's actually something that works well for us this year, because no matter what the challenge, and I can attest from my own experience within this fire evacuation, was that I actually felt being taken care of no matter what, even the way people evacuated and drove to the East Bay, or I had the sense that we all in it together, and it's gonna be okay. So that's part of this kind of feeling that that it resolve itself and solution will come, even in difficult situation, is something that is not, we cannot take for granted. It's something that was granted this year, 2019. I want you to, this is something I want you to write down about this kind of, are you operating from, here's the thing, inspiration has to do with love. Inspiration has to do with loving what we like to share and create for ourselves and other people. And also, I want you to rate in terms of risk taking. How much of a risk taker are you? And how much you still, the opportunity for you, for us, not just for you, for us in this next 8 weeks till we're crossing over to another time cycle, how much for us, how much are we in a comfort zone, and how much we're willing to take more risks to step out. So I'm just curious with you guys, if you rate yourself from, let's say, I'm willing to take more risk, where I'm willing to take more risk is towards a 10. What is, how much of a risk taker are you? Are you a 3, which means you want to stay more in the comfort zone, or are you an 8 or a 7? And if you want to share it with the group, please do. Um, okay, so we said that September has to do a lot with um, a completion cycle. Uh, awesome. Okay, I see some of you responding. Some of you say not much of a risk taker. Some of you saying I'm a 8-ish. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, cool. Um, good. So this is something to know. If you're not much of a risk taker, I'm not saying it's bad, but it means how much are you attached to stay where you are when you desire to change? Because if you desire to create a change, you will have to take some risks. There's no other way. You will have to do some steps to kind of step out. And stepping out means that whatever was comfortable up till now may not be as comforting as you would like to think. It doesn't have to be bad or a horrible experience. It means we're going to be different. And the thing is, we need to be willing to the different step right now. So so here's the thing. It's interesting because September was about taking chance, about to shift stagnation and create new initiation. September in 2019, and as we move to October, and it was a very much a month that was challenged by these double tens of October. The year has a 10, October has a 10, so it was a lot of kind of butting heads between authorities. Just think about it. We still feel it. Authorities and conflicting ideas. Um, and in the area of relationship, I would say October was a very much of a month that I would say if you had agreements or you have agreements, especially between partnerships, whether it's romantic or that, and you didn't actually took the time to write down exactly what you're agreeing on, maybe this is a good time still to towards the end of the year to actually come up with agreement that you like to agree on, that you hold you accountable, but you also be clear about what kind of agreement you have. Now, November in general, it's a highly social month. It's so the thing is with social months, it can be exhausting. It's there has to be like time to take a pause and and give yourself a little bit of a break. It's also um, being willing to actually define what is the passion that you want to be led by and how you would like to actually take risk and take stepping out with that new or old passion of yours and take it to another level. November is it has these three, and three has to do with the archetype of the drama queen, acting drama queen. So November, it's a really there's a need to avoid any drama, any sort of I would say um, that there's a room for expression, but try to avoid any reactive or dramatic behavior. Now, as we're going through December, is uh, it's really important. It's an opportunity to put risk and creative initiatives into structure, into a plan. It's a really good time to define clear goals and create. I would say, in at least it was like wide brushstrokes, a multi-yearly map, because December is really has that four. Four has to do with structure and plan, has to do with creating, but also I have to say everything in December, agreements, plans, you want to write it down, because why this year, 2019, was really hard, because there was a hidden 13, or the sense of like number 13 has to do with illusion, has to do with the power of the word. So if we weren't actually on our way to be positive about things, we could have kind of create a very negative reality. So December has that 13 in the heart configuration. In the area heart configuration is the place where we make choices, where we go and our emotive intent is being expressed, and this is where a lot of time we make choice from. So it's really important to write down what is your emotive intent, what you like to create, because writing things down like this, as well as agreement, it will actually change the way you actually commit to the reality that you want to pursue. When you write something, you're really committing to something that is clear. A lot of time, they say talk is cheap. It is, because a lot of time we talk a lot about stuff, but we're not really committing to what we say. And writing, especially when it comes to agreements, is creating a different framework. So just look at your agreement with yourself, agreement with others, and see if you can actually create a different context to it. December, it can be a little bit challenging in the area of community, family, and relationship. It's not because the holiday season there. Holidays always has a karmic effect to it, but this year, in the base of December, there is a double three. Double three means like potential, possibilities, positive mind, but when you have a double number, it means it's zero itself out. So here's the thing, don't get too caught by impulsiveness and by just projection that, yes, we can do it. Yeah, 20 guests, we can do it. Weigh the pros and cons before you making a choice. It will create less headache in terms of planning, in terms of like, it will create much more of being real, but what we can take on and what we cannot. And the other thing is that so I'm going to go a little bit to questions, but before I go to questions, I would love, if you like, also to have an opportunity, an individual conversation, and learn how I can support you in your journey. I mean, I do a lot of work one-on-one with people, but I like to just know if this is something that I can actually provide. And if you like to do that, there's no really obligation. You can actually just go on my online calendar or email me a time that you would like to have like a 20 minutes kind of free conversation or consultation. Free. We're just going to talk, see what your goals are, what you would like to create, and whether there's a way for me to help you. The other thing that really important for me to make an announcement is like soul mapping is coming up, which is like a way for you to actually create a plan, knowing your planets, knowing your directions, and also knowing who's the right people for you to work with, like understanding your planetary, or I would say numeric vibration, to actually start to assess, is there a good fit there? And we're running a discount through tomorrow through the 11th of November, the double 11. And I highly recommend. It's like probably the most practical framework for you to actually organize your life in a whole other way. I mean, if you're around here in up in Sonoma, I know we have people that that kind of that are in San Francisco that on the call. So anyway, I had to make my couple of announcements. But so what kind of so I see some questions. Uh, why don't I start? Why don't you write your questions? Any question you have right now, and I'll answer all of them. We're not like such a big group, so um, since in the tax formation, everybody see your question. I'm gonna. Naomi actually was asking about so about being more careful, conscious about community and relationship as you just move to a new place. I would say yes, it's exciting to move to a new place. It's not about being phobic about it, but being more, I would say, real about it. It's like, and being coming from a place um of what you would like to have, whether it's a relationship or whether it's connection to community. It's really good to define what are the parameters that you would like to create for yourself, and then um, see if there's a match there. If there's something that doesn't make sense to you, say doesn't make sense, and I'll try to address it some other time. Any other questions, you guys? Questions about direction, question about choice, question about creative choice, your purpose. Um, if you want to go on voice, it's okay too. If that's going to be easier for you to actually voice it out. The other question that I see here is, would a creative expression be our main purpose or sideline? I would say that purpose, when you find your purpose, when you find actually this is, it's linked to creative expression, because if we not actually express our purpose publicly in some shape or form, then we are not actually practicing our purpose. So it's either we express what we care about or we hide it. Yes, that's pretty simple, right? Any last question? Any question about soul mapping? Any question about any other things? Or how some of you wanted to actually end the quarter? Just think, what will be 3 things you can complete this before the end of the year that will give you can you actually say give you some I would say 3 things that will end up the year for you on a high note. That will give you a whole boost. Now, Tara is asking about short description about soul mapping. So soul mapping is actually it's coming from a Kabbalistic tradition, the Tree of Life, and it's basically defining. You're gonna identify what are the 5 first planets that make you who you are. Your first creative planet, your second creative planet, your third creative planet, fourth creative planet has to do with your choice of career and occupation. So looking at a tree of life, looking at your level of consciousness, where it's coming from, there's within the numeric order of Kabbalah, the consciousness associated with the number 3 7, and 12. And guess what? 3, 7, and 12, when you collapse them, is the number 13. Number 13, so it was the power of the word, the power of our expression. So we're going to look at the 3 levels of consciousness, how it's applied to your own planetary making, how it's translated itself in time, means there's 7 general periods that each one of us is clocking on a yearly basis with the 7 creative planets, and each one of us has a different clocking. You're going to define how these different periods express themselves for you in the coming year for 2020. And the third things that we're going to actually identify and look is, 1, how to work with moon cycles, and how to actually identify the combined energies you have with other people. Means, there's a daily vibration that each one of us carry, and it creates a certain consciousness. And when you combine your daily vibration with somebody else's, you will define a third combined entity that is determining the quality of relationship you have. Like, for instance, some people have a great energy separately, but when they come together, it's conflicting. So the immediate indication is, for instance, if somebody is like combined energy is ruled by the number 22 or the number 8 or the number 26, let's say, I'm just throwing it off, you will identify what will be the best way to change the challenging aspect of the relationship into something that is beneficial for you. It's dense with information. You're gonna use it for the rest of your life, basically. Did I do a good job describing what soul mapping is? I don't know. Okay, cool. Any last questions? And we're gonna complete, and I'm gonna put this, or a link to this recording, probably on my Facebook page, and you can tap into it or share it with other people as well. Any last questions? Okay, no question. So here's the thing: you know how to get a hold of me. If you have other questions or you want to have a conversation with me, please feel free to schedule a time. Thank you so much I know it's Sunday night. I think it's a good night to have these kind of webinars. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on, and we're gonna have another webinar in a month. Thank you so much.